He was just my renter. That was the thought I had every time I saw him walking up the path toward the small apartment above my garage, suitcase in hand, eyes tired from work but always polite, always kind enough to smile. From the very beginning, I told myself that was all he would ever be to me. He paid his rent on time, kept to himself, and never caused any trouble. Our conversations were always short, practical exchanges about bills or repairs. It was simple, professional, and I expected it to stay that way. But over time, something shifted. I couldn't pinpoint exactly when it began. Maybe it was the evening he helped me carry heavy groceries inside when my arms were full, his hand brushing mine as he took the bags. Maybe it was the day he fixed a broken step without being asked, sweat glistening at his temples as he worked, then flashing me that modest grin when I thanked him. Or maybe it was simply the quiet consistency of his presence, coming and going, always reliable, always near, even if only in small ways. I began to notice him differently, though I told myself I shouldn't. I was older, experienced, responsible. He was just starting his life, still figuring things out. The difference should have been enough to keep me grounded. Yet noticing soon turned into wondering. His smile lingered in my mind longer than it should have. His voice, warm and steady when he greeted me, replayed in my thoughts. And slowly, the silence in my home felt louder. Night stretched on, empty and heavy. Friends had their own lives, family was distant, and the house seemed too large for just me. Loneliness has a way of amplifying every small detail, of turning even harmless interactions into sparks you try desperately not to fan into flames. It was on one of those nights that everything changed. The evening was quiet, the air outside cool, and I sat with a half-finished glass of wine, staring at the clock that ticked too loudly in the silence. I saw him walking back toward the apartment after work, shoulders slightly slouched, eyes tired but still carrying that gentle energy that seemed to follow him. Something inside me stirred, reckless and uninvited. Before I could stop myself, I opened the door and called out to him. My voice sounded casual, almost too casual, as I asked if he would like to come in for a drink. He stopped, looked at me with surprise, and for a heartbeat I wished I could take it back. But then he smiled softly, nodded, and stepped inside. That moment was the beginning of the end of boundaries I thought were unshakable. We sat in the living room, 2 glasses of wine between us, conversation flowing more easily than I expected. At first, it was small talk, work, weather, everyday struggles. But as minutes turned into hours, the words grew deeper. He spoke about his ambitions, the weight of expectations, the mistakes that still haunted him. I shared my own regrets, my own vulnerabilities, pieces of myself I hadn't revealed to anyone in years. There was a comfort in his presence, a sense of being seen and understood, and it unsettled me as much as it warmed me. The space between us on the couch seemed to shrink without either of us moving deliberately. Our laughter lingered, our silences grew heavier. At one point, our hands brushed as we both reached for the bottle, and neither of us pulled away. That single touch carried a charge that left the air thick, my heartbeat quickening in a way I hadn't felt in so long. His eyes met mine, steady and searching, and I knew he felt it too. The kiss came like a question and an answer all at once, soft at first, hesitant, as though daring the moment to exist. When I didn't pull back, it deepened, pulling me into a place where reason dissolved. The rules I had lived by, the boundaries I had guarded, all fell away in the face of raw desire and loneliness. We crossed a line that night, a line I had once sworn I would never even approach. And though guilt stirred somewhere deep inside, it drowned beneath the tidal wave of passion that swept through us. When morning came, sunlight broke through the curtains, harsh in its honesty. The room felt different, ordinary, stripped of the haze of the night. He stirred beside me, offered a soft smile, but we both knew nothing would ever be the same. What had happened couldn't be undone. The weight of it pressed down on me, heavy with consequences yet unspoken. In the days that followed, life carried on as though nothing had changed. He went to work, I tended to the house, and outwardly, we remained landlord and tenant. But behind closed doors, everything was different. There was a new current in the air, charged, secretive, undeniable. A glance lasted too long, a silence carried meaning, and every interaction was laced with the memory of what we had done. At first, The secrecy was intoxicating. It felt like a hidden world only we shared, a private truth tucked away behind ordinary routines. But the weight of it grew heavier with time. Every smile carried guilt, every conversation was shadowed by the thought of what it meant. I found myself torn between the thrill of desire and the ache of betrayal, not betrayal of a partner, but of my own principles, my own sense of self. There were nights when I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had ruined something sacred inside me. The loneliness that had once seemed unbearable now felt replaced by something more complicated, something far heavier. I wasn't just alone anymore. I was carrying a secret that gnawed at me, one that made me question not only my choices but my very identity. He was still the young man who rented from me, still kind, still gentle, but now he was also the reminder of the line I had crossed. And yet, despite the guilt, there were moments when I longed to relive that night. The memory of his lips, the way his hand lingered at the small of my back, the warmth of feeling wanted, it haunted me. It reminded me that beneath the layers of responsibility and restraint, I was still human, still capable of desire, still aching to be touched. That contradiction, between guilt and longing, was perhaps the cruelest part of it all. Looking back now, I see that it was never just about him. It was about me. It was about the loneliness that had hollowed me out, the vulnerability I tried to mask with routine, and the longing that slipped through the cracks when I wasn't looking. He was the catalyst, yes, but the truth is that I was already standing too close to the line long before he ever crossed it with me. That night remains etched in my memory, not only for the passion but for the lesson it carried. Temptation doesn't always arrive with warning. Sometimes it slips in quietly, through kind gestures and long silences, through laughter that feels warmer than it should. Sometimes it waits for the moment when you're most vulnerable, and then it asks only one question. Will you cross the line? I did. And it changed everything.